was your debut as a director after all the things you've produced and all the things you've written, and there's a lot.
Yeah, I've directed a lot in television, but this is my first feature film. Yeah,
absolutely. So why this one?
I decided to direct it after a lot of soul searching. It mostly had to do with the fact that I did a lot of research for this and interviewed about 250, 300 people directly, and then did a lot of internet correspondence with others, probably another couple of thousand people. And a lot of it was people telling me their personal stories. And I started to feel very responsible because a lot of them were funny, heartfelt, uplifting, sad. And I started to feel like I really needed to make certain that the confidence that people had placed in me by telling me those stories, that it actually got the emotion, what was happening to them, got conveyed on screen.
What was the purpose of doing all of those interviews initially?
Everything that I do. I like to do a lot of interviews for and a lot of research for. I feel like I don't want to guess what people are feeling or what they're going through. I want to actually hear what it is that they're going through from them. So there's actually, I strung things together and wrote characters that were that had a continuity to them. But there's very little in the film that I didn't actually hear from someone. Certainly none of the incidents that are in the film came from anything other than the research and individual things that people said to me, and a tremendous amount of the dialogues actually things that people said to me directly.
Wow. Has that been true of your television work as well?
Yeah, very much so. Very heavily researched. I spent a lot of hours in ERs and with ER physicians. We continue to do that through all 15 years of the series. We had a number of different people from Washington who worked in the White House, worked in congressional offices on the staff, always on West Wing. We try to do things that are very research intensive in the hope that when the audience sees it, they will feel that it has a certain reality and an authenticity.
It did. That makes perfect sense to me. Now that series came to an end, obviously. So at that point in time, while you have other things going on, Shameless is another. Has that pilot already shot and all of that? What's going on with that?
Yeah, we have two things that are coming. Southland's coming back on the air in January, which we were making for NBC and now making for TNT. And as is a new series, Shameless, that we're doing with Bill Macy and Emmy Rossum and Joan Cusack, which is based on a British series, and it comes on in early January as well.
So you have a whole commitment for X number of episodes.
We are actually prepping episode 10 right now and getting ready to shoot it. So we're almost done. We're making 12 episodes for them.
But somewhere in there, you made the decision that a feature film was what you wanted to do. And why was that important to you? And why this? I mean, you did all the research for this, but this had to be a feature film, in other words, somehow.
Yeah, some of the stories, people often ask me, how do you decide whether something's going to be a feature film or whether it's going to be a television series? And it really has to do with the subject matter. This subject matter was clear to me from the beginning that it was really a story with a beginning, middle, and end that would work well in kind of a 2-hour-ish format. I think it's about an hour and 50 minutes. And that's because the arc of the central character, Bobby's arc, the Ben Affleck character's arc, is a very specific thing that happens to him. It's about a year in his life. And I thought it would be best served that way. And some of the television series, what we end up doing is because we see, there's a whole lot that we can do. You really have to commit to being able to tell, 100 to 150 chapters of that story in television. And that's a lot. And you have to know that, and it's one of the other reasons we do a lot of research, is to make certain that we actually know that we can make enough that we're not going to run out of juice after 15 or 20 episodes. It's one of the difficulties, I think, with television shows, particularly the larger kind of event shows, something that's based around something happening. Science fiction pieces are really tough to pull off in episodic television for that reason, because you've got to continue to figure out what are these ongoing stories, and they can be very hard to figure out.
So what you have here are these 3 main characters, and you've got amazing actors to play them. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones, who must have been, was he as prickly as you had been warned he would be?
Tommy has a reputation for being exacting, and I would say that Tommy is very exacting, but I had a terrific time with him, working with him. It was actually a very good experience. He's really talented, and the character in the piece is meant to embody a whole sort of segment or of American masculinity, about kind of who we have been in the past, and what we hope to be and what we may be losing, and what's the danger of losing that.
He's a titan of industry, if you like.
And we are losing that. We are losing that to Wall Street financiers and losing the people who actually built things and made things in this country and made this country, in my estimation, what it has been over the last, certainly since the Second World War. And he perfectly, his face alone perfectly represents that whole thing.
He represents a certain kind of decency, too, and
intelligence,
responsibility for his workers and trying to keep something going when the bosses are not going to let him do it.
Yeah, Tommy Lee, I think, it very much sort of represents this integrity and moral outrage over what's happening in the country. And based on a number of interviews that I did with other CEOs and CFOs and senior vice presidents, I was expecting that when I did those interviews, I would hear people who were only sort of interested in their own self-interest. And I found that there were a lot of them that were really felt trapped in the financial situations. They were making a lot of money, and feeling as if that what they were doing for that money was actually destroying everything they worked for their entire lives.